tree partners, and it's good to be back. And speaking to Tim's situation, I'm going to digress just a minute and give you a little bit of history on these plans, and I'm going to repeat some things that have already been spoken, but I think they're important. It's unfortunate that these trees were cut down, and it was simply a mistake. Back in 2005, I believe this portion of the plan went through this commission and was approved. Remaining portions of the plan went through some 7 years later. Tree inventories were fashioned, were deemed to be complete, documents were certified. No tree protection anywhere, but no tree inventory. So, you're not going to put any tree protection around a plan that doesn't have any trees on it. And it's understandable that perhaps that conclusion was drawn. No tree inventory, no need for tree protection. We then file an amendment to these three plans at the direction of Ball Homes. The previous engineer, land planner, no longer around. We do quite a bit of work for Ball, so they came to us to file this amendment. The purpose of the amendment was to reduce the number of lots, make the lots bigger, attend to some concerns that the Coffins had across the Sandersville Road, and to generally create a neighborhood of what Ball might say the highest quality homes in this area. So it was an attempt on the developer to make this a better area in terms of the housing offered. We inherited the plans. We took the plans at face value. We filed our plan 2 months ago. It went through a technical review committee meeting and a subsequent land subdivision committee meeting. At that technical review committee meeting, there was mention made of good trees at this particular location on the property. It was duly noted. It was passed back to the developer. Now, the developer is not a one room office. It's a big operation. And oftentimes, communications aren't complete, or it takes some time to complete them. Because of concerns the Coffins legitimately had, and Jim Schneider, the owner and operator of Spring Valley Golf Course had, we postponed for a month. We sat down, and the focus was not at that time on the stormwater management area, the large species trees at this particular location, but it was on satisfying concerns of Coffin and Schneider relative to perimeter screening and relative to stormwater issues that will potentially have some impact on the golf course. So we set about doing that, and we made progress. In the interim, the decision was made to push for development of 90 of these lots, basically at that corner of Greendale and the railroad tracks. And just upstream of the railroad tracks is a Ball development called Chesapeake Equine that's underway, under construction, large stormwater management facility. Inside the office, it was easy to achieve the goals of the tree protection and the conflicting stormwater management shown on this plan. We simply move the stormwater management on upstream, onto a property that Ball owns, operates, will own and operate, and we basically killed 2 birds with 1 stone. In the interim, over the 1st of July, holiday, somebody authorized the removal of those trees. It happened through the construction end of Ball Homes, and I think a private contractor did it. I was on my way to Florida when I got the call about this, and it was chaos, and everybody knew that there was a problem, and the problem was created, and there was no turning back. So that's a long story on how what happened. There's no excuse that it happened. It could have been prevented. It should have been prevented, but it wasn't prevented. One thing Ball has done in the revamping of this development is to provide a large screening area around the perimeter of the property, and that's our commitment to Doug, is that we will maintain the standard screenings and make improvements to them. We have agreed with him in all aspects of his tree retention in addition portion of his PowerPoint. The only deviation will be Dave Leonard. We'll not be using Mr. Leonard to do this analysis, but we will be using somebody of equal credential, and Mr. Query will be involved as well. And we will save and create a better environment and a better streetscape along Sandersville and Greendale because of the efforts of Cawthon and Ball Homes and the fact that this plan makes room for things that are in conflict a lot of times to live or to prosper equally. There's a stone wall, there's a proposed multi-purpose path, there's a proposed sidewalk, there's proposed screening and buffering, and all I can say is that will be done in accord with the agreement we made with Mr. Cawthon. The plan will be followed up to include the notations Mr. Query wants relative to disturbance of that streetscape. He's right, we don't want to put a tree preservation buffer along Sandersville and Greendale. We've got a bikeway pathway to build. We've got some grading that needs to take place, some clearing, some shrub, honeysuckle, some bad trees that need to be removed and to be positioned to where we can get in and work with some freedom would be a burden. With that said, I suspect there are questions. I'll be happy to attempt to answer any that you have. It's unfortunate the Burr Oaks were removed. There's at least one that I have seen that is substantial that remains.
Questions for Mr. Gross? Mr. Penn?
I hate to keep going on this, but I'm really concerned about two things. Number one is that's where the detention basin is supposed to go, right?
No, we're going to move the detention basin.
Well, it's a little late to move it now.
Well, no, it's not a little late to move it. On the plan, it can be moved. It's a little late to save the trees.
Well, that's my point. My point is this. You're asking us to trust you and not put a tree protection area, where at the same time you've told us that somebody dropped the ball and we've cut down 8 bur oak trees or 9.
We're going to put a tree protection. We'll put a tree protection area in that particular area. All I'm asking you to do is not burden us with a tree protection area along the public rights-of-way of Sandersville Road and Greendale Hill.
Are you talking about inside the rock wall or outside the rock wall?
Outside the rock wall.
Well, we weren't going to plant trees there anyway, were you?
Yes.
Outside the rock wall?
Outside, well, outside, when you say outside, I'm talking about inside the development.
Oh, I'm thinking.
On the development side of the rock wall, we are going to plant trees. Now, if you want to put a tree preservation area between the rock wall.
No, you can't do that.
No,
it's like 4 or 5 feet to start with. My question to you is that this plan, and part of it's staff problems, part of it's a lot of other things that happened here. We can't put those trees back. I want to get this fixed. So not just for Ball Homes, but for anybody else that develops a piece of property that doesn't list a tree inventory. Because that's where the ball was dropped way back when. That's not your fault. Doesn't matter whose fault it is.
That's where the first ball was dropped.
It doesn't matter whose fault it is. What matters is what we learn from it. And my concern right now, Mr. Query, and I'm directing this at you, is that we fix whatever's wrong here so this kind of thing can't happen again. Because it's not that it's the end of the world, but it is for 9 pretty significant trees that are pretty rare.
I agree, and this does not happen often. I don't know that it has ever happened before.
Well, we obviously can't prevent it.
Well, we do a pretty good job of preventing it.
Not with the absence of
But
tree.
not on this particular instance. I mean, if you want to point at this microcosm of the development process in Lexington and say this is a bad thing, I have to agree with you. It is bad.
And that's where I'm coming from. I'm not trying to belittle any particular development plan. I'm very disappointed what happened here.
I'm not happy about it either.
But what I am concerned about is that we don't send the message here today, it's better to beg forgiveness than ask permission. And that's my concern in this whole thing, overarching the whole deal here, is that we fix this where we prevent this, but the other thing is we make Sandersville Road look the best we possibly can make it look, and I think you all want to do the same thing.
I think we do want to do the same thing. We've told Mr. Coffin that we'll help him, and Mr. Hillmeyer that we will help him do that.
Mr. Curry, Curry. Something to add?
I can say that a representative from Ball Homes did call me immediately to inform me about this oversight. I think it was an honest mistake. I think the people with that organization that are in charge of development were making every attempt to try to work with us to preserve the trees. However, a lot of times what we see on development is the person that's operating the heavy equipment doesn't get that message. And I truly think, after discussing the issue at length with the representative from Ball Homes, that whoever this operator was didn't get that message. It's unfortunate.
Ms. Plummer, question?
Yes. Obviously, the 9-year-old suffered an egregious assault, and that can never really be rectified. But my question now, I guess either to Tim probably, is what will the canopy be for the whole development?
They still have to meet the required 30% tree canopy, which they have based this plan on the fact that those trees were never included. And that's why we were going to talk today, hopefully, or at least during my sign-off, that those would be included. So whatever number is shown on the plan that they're going to have to plant to make the 30%, I know that they'll do that. It's just you're planting a 2-inch caliper tree versus trying to preserve possibly a 38, 40-something inch bur oak. And you can't replace that in our lifetime.
Yeah, Mike?
Yeah, Al, how are you going to fix that problem right down there where the staff tried to redesign the lots? You said you had a solution.
I think I got the staff's concept this morning. I sent an email back to Tom that we had already, in our conversations with the Coffins, decided to move this road, which is a road that's parallel to Sandersville Road, an additional 10 feet in that direction, and allow all that additional width to be placed outside the back of the lot. I mean, I want you to understand that these lots will be a particular depth. I think the minimum depth is 130 feet. Between the back of the lot and the edge of the wall, for example, will be future either HOA maintained area or, in the best of worlds, future public right-of-way. So it won't be in the backyards of these homeowners. It won't be their responsibility to maintain it, to keep it up.
Other questions? Mr. Nicholson, anything to add? Not at this point. Mr. Martin?
I just wanted to clarify, and it goes in line with what Al just mentioned to you and what Tim had mentioned when they talk about the trees and the walls. There is a note on the plan where the applicant has agreed to meet the stone wall ordinance, and that addresses the stone walls. It's very important to know that any note that we're talking about being worked out relative to the trees is relative to their placement in relationship to those walls and the trail. And I just want to be real clear about that, and say that didn't confuse anyone or the planning commission about